Welcome to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. We're down to just 32 teams as we have reached the second round. The first round, well, it brought us some big overtime wins, some memorable upsets, and now we've got a great slate for you today. 8 games on the ESPN family of networks, including all 4 #1 seeds. NC State, they are up first, and their star, Elisa Cunane, taking on South Florida at 3 o'clock. At 3:30, the phenomenal freshman, Caitlin Clark. She had 23, 7, and 7 in her tournament debut. What will they do today against Kentucky? We will find out shortly as we welcome you into the studio alongside Rebecca Lobo, Coach Andy Landers. I'm Kelsey Riggs. Some great games on deck. And, Coach, let's start with that Kentucky-Iowa game. What are you looking to see?
This one's going to be a good one. Could be a shootout between 2 of the best guards in the country. Caitlin Clark, as you mentioned and just saw, leads the country in scoring 26 points a game. A freshman for Iowa. Then there's Ryan Howard, the 6'2" guard for Kentucky, 2-time Southeastern Conference Player of the Year. She just makes points up as she goes along. That
game at 3:30 on ESPNU. Lots of star power there, and certainly with this NC State squad as well.
And what I'm looking for in this game is to see how NC State is going to start. They started kind of slow in their first round matchup, and it wasn't until the second half when Jada Boyd went crazy offensively that they were able to get going. But don't overlook South Florida. They're a team that can control the tempo, have multiple players who can make threes, and back in December they played Baylor to the wire, was able to neutralize Baylor's bigs.
The games tip off at 3. The last ones are at 9 o'clock tonight. We will have you covered all day long, and we'll get you out to NC State and South Florida after this.
Welcome to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. Round 2 getting underway today, and we are going to start you off from San Antonio as the top seed in the Mercado region. The NC State Wolfpack take on the 8th-seeded South Florida Bulls, the champions out of the American Athletic Conference. Now, day 1 of the NCAA Women's Tournament, no upsets. Day 2, different story. There were 3 of them, 2 of which came in this region. So as we stare down the Sweet 16, those higher-seeded teams best be on high alert. Jen Hildreth, former Clemson Tiger, Kelly Gramlich, and Kelly with his NC State team. This is a team I think a lot of people have as a Final Four pick. They're the ACC tournament champs, and for the first time ever, they're a #1 seed.
And they're dealing with that pressure of being a #1 seed, Jen. And yes, they're a Final Four pick for many. They were my national title pick, but a big part of their success is Kayla Jones. She will not play today that we know of at this point. She is dealing with a left knee injury that she suffered in the first game of the tournament against North Carolina A&T. So who will start in her place? It is Jada Boyd, the ACC Co-6th Player of the Year. Look at her numbers in the first round game. She was excellent off the bench, gave them the spark that they needed. And she's really been their 6th starter all year. That's what Coach Moore describes her as, their 6th starter. So now she is in the lineup for the Wolfpack. For USF, it's going to be all about Elena Chineke. She was excellent in the first game against Washington State, poured in 18 points. She's a very talented combo guard, can score all over the floor. Excellent free throw shooter. NC State has to focus on her first and foremost defensively.
This is a very hungry USF team looking for its first ever Sweet 16. NC State, meanwhile, has been there the last 2 NCAA tournaments. Off we go, the round 2 getting underway right now as the NC State Wolfpack will start off with the basketball wearing white. Jada Boyd in that starting lineup for the first time since January 24th. Their All-American center inside, Elisa Cunane, in some trouble on that first possession. Starting lineups brought to you by Capital One for South Florida. A very international group, as usual. Sydney Harvey, Eliza Pinzon, Chineke, Betty Mununga, and Shea Leverett, the starting 5 for Jose Fernandez. Chineke, too strong on her first shot. Reina Perez, the transfer who has been heaven sent, in the words of head coach Wes Moore, in the starting 5, along with Cunane, Jakia Brown-Turner, Boyd, and Kai Crutchfield.
Jen, NC State has gone inside to their All-American Elisa Cunane twice so far. And what's interesting is that South Florida has not doubled her yet. They're guarding her one-on-one with Shea Leverett. Look for USF to send a lot of different bigs in the game to guard Cunane, but it doesn't seem like they feel the need to double her quite yet.
How do you feel about that?
Well, NC State makes it very difficult, Jen, because they have so many great shooters around Cunane. If you can guard her one-on-one, and South Florida's post players pride themselves on defense and rebounding, I think you at least have to try it early to see if you can do it, because the more you help off, the more you leave those excellent NC State shooters open for threes.
Jose Fernandez saying after his first round win, just maybe 8 is enough to pull off some upsets in this tournament as they look ahead, and they knew they were facing this top-seeded NC State Wolfpack team as Jakia Brown-Turner has the first points of the game.
Keep an eye on number 11 in white. She is incredibly talented. I think she is a part of the very bright future in the ACC, a first-team All-ACC selection as just a sophomore. She can score from all over the floor.
8 on the shot clock for USF. A triple will do as the Bulls get on the board.
And it's Chineke, who was excellent in the first round matchup. And sometimes, Jen, when you're playing back-to-back games with one day in between, if you felt good in that first matchup, it just keeps coming to you in the next game.
Brown-Turner, back-to-back buckets for NC State. She had a double-double in the Wolfpack's win against North Carolina A&T, 10 points, 10 boards. Elisa Pinzon, the point guard for USF out of Merano, Italy.
South Florida runs a lot of stagger screening and off-ball screening action offensively. They're constantly trying to get looks for their three-point shooters off of stagger screens, which is a double screen set by 2 other players on the opposite side of the ball. And you'll see Pinzon and Chineke coming off those stagger screens often.
Kai Crutchfield knocks down a triple. She has been excellent in her career in the NCAA tournament. She's a senior. She's shooting 62% in all of her NCAA tournament games from beyond the arc.
When you look at Crutchfield's numbers, one would think, why doesn't she shoot the ball more? Because she has been automatic, especially from beyond the arc.
And part of that, perhaps, Kelly, is just playing the role she needs to play on this very talented and balanced NC State team that has 4 players averaging in double figures. Now, they are without one of those. We're not quite sure for how long. We are told it'd be a game-time decision for Kayla Jones. Probably doubtful that we'll get a chance to see her today.
For sure, and NC State, they pride themselves on their balance. You see Kayla Jones right there on the bench. She is a senior, first-team All-ACC honoree. Does a lot of the little things for NC State. You look at her numbers, averaging 12 and 7, but she's a great passer. She's a vocal and emotional leader. She is an excellent rebounder at 6'1". So Jada Boyd definitely has some big shoes to fill, but Jada Boyd is very talented in her own right. And that just shows how good NC State is and why they're one of the best teams in the country. You lose a starter and you replace her with a player like Boyd, who would be starting for pretty much any other team in the country.
Elisa Cunane picked up her first foul on that last play down the floor. Harvey hitting one of her free throws. 3-point lead for the Wolfpack. Boyd drives to the basket and it's good.
And that's what we're talking about with Jada Boyd. She has great speed and quickness, can handle the ball at 6'2", is an excellent rebounder, just a threat all over the floor offensively.
USF trying to hang with number 1. The Wolfpack have made their last 4 from the floor. Another 3 goes up from Harvey. Kelly, perhaps USF just not feeling like they're able to get a lot of good looks inside. It's been almost all perimeter shots to start things off. NC State will try from 3.
And that is the way that South Florida plays, Jen. They play a lot through their guards. Their post players are mainly in there for them to rebound and defend. You look at Betty Manunga inside, one of the best rebounders in the entire country. Second nationally in rebounds per game, but they just don't get a lot of scoring from their bigs. So a lot of the scoring responsibilities fall on their guards.
Jose Fernandez, what a tremendous job he has done over 20 years leading this team in Tampa. He's named the American Coach of the Year this year for the second time in his career. And all 7 NCAA tournament appearances for the Bulls have come under his watch.
He has built an excellent program down there in Tampa. They are now the class of the American. They're very consistent, always competing for postseason bids. And it's hard to believe he's been there for 21 years. That's quite a tenure.
And he's a bit of a walking wounded. Is diagnosed with the flu earlier this week when he went in to get his COVID testing. So he's been trying to fight it out and keep away from his players so everybody stays healthy, as Kanane has her first points for NC State.
It felt like that time South Florida did try to double at the end, but it was a little too late. Kanane was already into her move and getting her shot off. So I'm interested to keep an eye on how South Florida tries to confuse Kanane. They double her sometimes, maybe they won't. Just trying to keep Kanane on her toes, because we know that stopping Kanane is first and foremost on the top of any scouting report when you're playing NC State.
Big battle for the rebound as Kanane goes down to the ground. The ACC tournament MVP and her Wolfpack up 5 early.
The NCAA Women's Championship is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet? And in part by Duracell Optimum.
We just want to give a little love, a little shout out to the USF managers and their attention to detail as they were designing that hotel team meeting room. Justin, Brian, Brandon, you had some good work there, Kelly.
The managers are the unsung heroes of every basketball program. And trust me, I understand how much work they do. I know doing the laundry and all that stuff is not exactly glamorous, but being a good manager, Jen, one of the main skills you have to have are those taping skills to make sure you can get a good court taped up in any ballroom, in any hotel, at any moment.
And did you have some tiger paws? I saw there was a USF Bull logo that was taped on there as well, just for some good authenticity. Did we have some tiger paws in your career in some hotel ballrooms?
We definitely did. Had some ACC logos as well. That bull looks pretty difficult. Some logos are more difficult to tape than others. The tiger paw, you have to have it at 1 o'clock. Everyone knows that. That is very picky about that. So the logos can be difficult today. Oh, Jen, look at you with the knowledge.
You know, Kelly, I'm trying to prepare for my partner. You know, my Clemson trivia. Betty Manunga, by the way, has her first foul, and Boyd had one of the free throws. She flies down the floor to get the field goal.
Like I said earlier about Jada Boyd, she would be starting for any other team in the country. So I know that very few teams feel sorry for NC State when they say, all right, Kayla Jones is out of the lineup. Oh, you're going to bring in Jada Boyd, who was a very highly rated recruit, all ACC freshman team last year, and is almost always the best athlete on the floor. The way she runs the floor in transition like she did on that previous play is impressive.
Bulls needed that 3 from Maria Alvarez. She brings a good spark off the bench, averages 7 points per game for the sophomore out of Belle Harbor, Florida.
We've got 2 sixth players of the year in this game. Alvarez was the co-sixth player of the year in the AAC, and Boyd in the ACC. Alvarez is instant offense, best three-point shooter in the American Athletic Conference.
Chineke, leading scorer for this team in their first round win, those 18 points. Kanane was calling for it, but Pinzon had an idea where it might be going. Stuck her hands in the passing lane, got it to her shooter. Good idea.
That is such a great play and excellent vision from Elisa Pinzon. Gets the steal, pushes the pace, knows her shooter is trailing on the left, sets her up perfectly for a 3 in transition. Pinzon averaging nearly 7 assists per game, 5th in D1 as you see. And on that play, you could see why, Jen.
Jakia Brown-Turner getting in. She is 6 now for NC State. Bulls going on a bit of a run to keep it close with the top-seeded Wolfpack. They'd gone about 5 minutes without a field goal before those last couple of threes. And now a foul called. If that's Crutchfield, it will be her second.
That's a big development for NC State, because without Kayla Jones, they already do not play a very deep bench. They play about 7 players. So without Kayla Jones, it's going to be interesting to see who Westmore goes to on the bench. And Kai Crutchfield is NC State's best defender.
And it's going to be Genesis Bryant, the freshman, who's been getting some more looks from Westmore here lately. This is just her 13th appearance of the season, but he really liked the way she'd been practicing and played 14 minutes in that first-round game.
I know I've said this before in this broadcast, but on any other team, Genesis Bryant would be playing a ton of minutes. As Jakia Brown-Turner with the spin move in transition. How about it from JBT? 8 points already in this game. Beautiful use of her change of direction. Looks like she's going right. Hits her with that spin move and finishes with contact. A little emotion
Contact
from number 11.
From Shea Leverett, as that was her second personal, Kelly, for USF. So something to be mindful of. The 6'2" center, very important to try to keep up with Elisa Kanane.
Jen, I'm getting the sense that Jakia Brown-Turner felt that without Kayla Jones, her team was going to need a little more from her today, and she is bringing it so far.
Oh, pins on, adds to the three-point party for the Bulls.
This team can really shoot it. USF can shoot the ball from beyond the arc, and they're streaky. They're a very streaky team. They can have some offensive droughts, but when they get hot, watch out.
Right now, the Bulls 4 of 9 from 3. That's really keeping them in this one so far, as the paint points are all NC State. 12-0 in favor of the Wolfpack. That foul went against Beatrice Jordao, the 6'3" center. Came on as Leverett picked up her second personal. Perez wanted to go back to Kanane, and her center wasn't quite where she thought she was.
Jordao was being very physical as well with Elisa Kanane inside, and like we've mentioned, South Florida's going to rotate in their post players. They have a lot of depth in the front court, and they're just going to bring in different players to play Kanane for 3 to 4 minutes, to be physical with her and try to make life difficult in this game.
A dish, but 3 seconds will end that possession for the Bulls. Tune in Thursday for the NIT quarterfinals when NC State's men's team takes on Colorado State at 7 Eastern on ESPN. Visit NCAA.com, the home for all 90 NCAA championships. Final minute of our first quarter. Top-seeded Wolfpack were pushed yesterday by North Carolina A&T through about the first 15 minutes at least. They really kept it close, made the Wolfpack work, and USF hanging around here in round 2.
You know what they say, Jen, and by they I mean me. 3s are worth more than 2s. South Florida's hit 4 threes in this first quarter. They've been lighting it up. NC State, as you mentioned, 12 points in the paint. South Florida, 0, but 3 greater than 2.
They've got their math equation down thus far, and it's got them within 4.
You didn't realize we were having a math class here on ESPN2 this afternoon.
I always try to avoid those. Alvarez from the corner knocks down another one.
Alvarez is listening to the broadcast. She knows about the 3 ball.
Perez, seconds off the clock, buzzer sounds. It is a 1-point game as these two teams are trying to fight their way to the Sweet 16. USF has never been there. NC State has been there the last 2, but Kelly, it's raining 3s for the Bulls.
It is raining 3s here in San Antonio. Jakia Brown-Turner, though, keeping NC State in this first quarter.
NCAA President Dr. Mark Emmert in attendance for this second round matchup between NC State and USF. And of course, one of the big stories coming into this NCAA women's tournament were some of the disparities between the men's and women's tournament. The women's players, coaches very vocal about it. The NCAA responded, and this is a statement that Dr. Mark Emmert said in a letter that he wrote. I will be determining exactly how we found ourselves in this situation. This will be discussed. For now, please know I'm deeply disappointed that the last few days have been focused on the NCAA blunders rather than the remarkable athletes in San Antonio, but he vowed that it would not happen again.
You know, I'm glad to see that statement, Jen, and I'm glad that we're addressing it here on this game. And I think the bottom line, you know, when you compare the men's facilities and men's ratings and all this stuff to women's, you can do that. And I get it, because the NCAA is supposed to serve the male and female athlete equally. So I very much get the outrage there. But I also really agreed with a coach that we talked to, Jen, on a Zoom, who I thought provided an excellent perspective. And she said, look, we can compare ourselves to the men all we want, but the bottom line is she did not feel like the NCAA had provided the adequate resources, of course the weight room is what we're mainly referring to, for its teams to perform at their highest levels at the tournament in San Antonio. Now, we know the weight room situation was fixed very quickly, and that was appreciated, but the coach that we spoke to, Jen, really just wanted us to know that this was about women's basketball and the growth of the game, and if you don't have the proper resources, how can you play to your highest potential?
Yep, thought that was a great point. And another point, the great athletes out here on the floor, and it has been a joy to watch this tournament unfold so far. Had some big-time performances, and USF trying to keep on dancing as Beatrice Jordow gets the bucket and ties it up.
And this is what this tournament should be about, Jen, about these programs who may not get to be on the national stage for most of the season, like a USF. They have some great players. They have some players that work their butts off. They have players that have sacrificed so much to play during this COVID season. They've had an excellent year, won the American Athletic Conference 19-3, and they have come to play in this game against NC State.
USF takes its first lead since the scoreline was 3-2. They also make their first field goal that was not a three.
But it was a three-point play.
True. And Wes Moore has gone to his bench in a couple of positions. Camille Hobby came on when Elisa Canane picked up her first foul. She's fouled on this play. You see Ellie Setfin, number 20, is in off the bench as well. And Wes Moore did this in the first round. He used some of his bench players, and not just when they had the big lead late, but he brought some of his bench in because he didn't necessarily like the way that his starters were responding in the NCAA tournament. The challenges that they were presented.
He trusts Camille Hobby a lot, and we've seen that throughout the season. When Cunane was out due to COVID protocol, Hobby got the start and played really well in their loss at Virginia Tech, had 19 points, 9 rebounds. She is very capable. She just happens to be behind one of the best centers in the entire country. But there's no doubt she deserves to be on the floor and get some quality minutes.
I mean, let's not forget there was a buzzer-beating 3 to force overtime by Camille Hobby in that game. And she's made 6 three-pointers on the entire season. So, yeah, it was a big game, and she's a big-time player. Coming off the bench, filling the role that she needs to for this Wolfpack team. Pinzon, got it!
I love what South Florida's doing offensively. They don't look like they just played a day ago. They run so many screens, whether it's ball screens, stagger screens. They are constantly moving, and that's how they get open looks for shooters.
Ellie Sutphin, the 6'3" redshirt freshman, who averages 8.5 minutes per game on the season, just made that bucket for NC State.
Speaking of shooters, Sutphin can shoot the ball. She hasn't played that much this season, but look, NC State has a very talented roster top to bottom, and that's just the way Wes Moore normally plays. He usually only plays 7, maybe 8 in his rotation, so you're seeing some of those bench pieces perform while they're out there.
Back and forth we go. USF back out in front over the top seed, and they get the rebound. Chineke, first team all-conference player in the American this year. It's batted out of bounds. It'll stay with the Bulls. but 7 lead changes so far in this game.
This has been a great ball game, and both teams playing very well offensively. South Florida trying to speed NC State up. They're trying to go. They want to play fast. They want to get looks in transition. There are 2 times that it's best to shoot a 3, off an offensive rebound and in transition, and that's what South Florida's looking for.
Pinzon thought about it, pulled it back out. Now no Elisa Canane in the game. The Bulls have gotten a couple of paint points in her absence. She has just 2 points in the game, 1 foul. She's on the bench at the moment. And this is going to be a foul against the Wolfpack. But she's such a presence, Kelly, on both the offensive and defensive ends for NC State.
And I thought South Florida did a great job of being physical with her in the first quarter, frustrating her. The first 2 plays, NC State went to her twice, and Canane got roughed up a little bit both times. No foul was called. I thought it was fine defense, but they were physical with her to a point, and it has frustrated Canane so far.
Now you just saw a glimpse there of how Reina Perez can really push the tempo for this NC State team. The pass got knocked out of bounds, didn't quite connect for that fast break. And Canane coming back into the game.
You're only going to sit Elisa Canane for so long, Jen. You got to get your All-American back in the game.
Jada Boyd, Jakia Brown, Turner, Genesis, Bryant, and Perez, the 5 on the floor at the moment for NC State. Bryant unafraid on that drive to the basket. Canane says it should stay with NC State. She's right in the eyes of our officials.
The Bulls doing a good job of holding their own in the rebounding column. Now, South Florida is one of the best rebounding teams in the country, but you go up against a team like NC State. I had a couple questions there with the Bulls. Could they maintain that? And they have done a great job so far in this contest.
Well, that play right there, Kelly, I mean, you think that's money in the bank when Canane gets the ball where she got it on that inbounds, but Beatrice Jordao got her hands to it, had it, just lost it out of bounds.
Jordao's numbers are not going to be prolific in the stat sheet, but she has put in the work defensively so far against Canane.
And Brown Turner has been the best offensive weapon today for NC State. She is in double digits with 11, 5 of 8 from the floor. Pinzon, and South Florida's going to lose it. That'll be on Jordao, I believe.
Moving screen. Yeah, South Florida, because they use so much screening action on the ball, off the ball, I'm sure they spend a lot of time in practice working on setting screens. And that situation, Jordao, she stepped into the NC State defender as she was setting the screen. Some extra contact, was moving her feet, and so I thought that was a good call.
One of 3 players, as you can see down there just above the score, with 2 fouls for USF. The defense able to contain Jakia Brown Turner that last time as she was called for a travel. Chineke knocks down another 3, and South Florida back out in front.
Chineke is having herself a tournament. She shot the ball really well against Washington State, and she has picked up right where she left off. Has a beautiful stroke from beyond the arc.
Boyd driving to the basket. 2 defenders in front of her. They do their job, a fight for the rebound, and eventually jump ball called. I mean, you think these teams want to keep on dancing, both of them going for every possession.
It has been a battle in the paint. If you're going to go in this game and play the 4 or the 5, you better be ready to leave with some bruises, some scratches, whatever it is. It's not for the faint of heart because it has been physical on both ends of the floor. And you mentioned those 3 South Florida Post players with 2 fouls. I think that's all a part of their game plan. They're going to keep rotating them in and out. Use your fouls. Don't be afraid to be physical, but you still have to be smart. You don't want to get a foul on a moving screen like Jordao did earlier.
Cristina Bermejo, sophomore out of Spain, misses on her 3-point attempt. And then cutting through everybody was Brown Turner. She was fouled. Jakia Brown Turner fighting for NC State, but the Wolfpack trailing USF by 2.
The NCAA Women's Championship, presented by Capital One, is brought to you by Pizza Hut. Order today at pizzahut.com.
Teams are trying to get to the Sweet 16 tomorrow afternoon. The NCAA Women's Championship second round continues at 1 Eastern, ESPN2, Alabama, Maryland, then Oregon, Georgia. Everybody getting ready any way they like. On ESPNU, it'll be Wright State and Missouri State. Back on ESPN2 at 5 Eastern, Northwestern and Louisville. You can always watch every game on the ESPN app. South Florida has pushed the NC State Wolfpack, much as North Carolina A&T did in NC State's first round game of this NCAA tournament. Brown Turner off to a great start, though, for NC State. Already more points than she had in the first round, where she had a double-double, tacked on 10 rebounds in that game as well. But she's had to carry a little more, as Elisa Canane's been frustrated with what the Bulls have done with her.
She has, and I think Jakia Brown Turner in this tournament so far has been very aggressive, looking for her own shot, and NC State needs her to stay that way. But the story of this game so far, to me, is how the Bulls have been able to contain and defend Elisa Canane. As Chineke, I mean, how, Jen? How did that ball go in? She's
living right. She is living right. Kelly Graham, like, if that one's going in, that's the first 2-point make for Chineke. She had 3 triples before that. And then Boyd working her way back in the paint. I mean, it has really been such a contrast in how these two teams are getting their points in this game, Kelly. For USF, 6 of their 10 made field goals have come from 3. Meanwhile, NC State, 16 of their 30 points in the paint.
And take a look at this. Canane gets doubled, and she makes a great pass. That's why some teams are hesitant to double Canane. And I think South Florida's done a good job of mixing it up. Sometimes they double her, sometimes they don't. They're keeping Canane on her toes, but she's an excellent passer. And Jada Boyd, it's very, very tough to stop her as she's cutting to the basket.
Big rebound. Boy, Jordao has made her presence felt. She couldn't hang on, though.
Coach Fernandez has left Jordao in there with 2 fouls. As I perhaps spoke it into existence, she just picked up her 3rd. So we'll see if he leaves her in. I doubt it, but she has given some really good minutes, and Mununga, who would normally be playing the majority of these minutes in the first half, has gotten some good rest, as she also has 2 fouls.
Yeah, the 2 starting post players for USF, Betty Mununga and Shea Leverett, both on the bench with 2 fouls. And Jordao, as you just pointed out, now with 3. And Canane, pretty smart play, as she knew she was getting a lot of contact, and she made sure our officiating crew saw it that time.
And he's kept Jordao in the game, so keep an eye on this. I think that's a very interesting decision. I guess because Mununga has 2 fouls, he'd rather save her, use her in the second half, doesn't want to risk her picking up her 3rd.
Shot clock getting low again on USF. They've bailed themselves out a few times with the 3, and then NC State pinballs it around off of each other, and it'll go back to the Bulls.
It feels like some of these balls are just bouncing South Florida's way. Both of these teams are playing with incredible effort, but South Florida has gotten the breaks in the first half. The ball bounces off a foot, and you can see Bermejo saying, that is green ball.
Now you'll see Jordao go to the bench with those 3 fouls. 3 points in the game for the 6'3" junior. Also pulled down a couple of rebounds. And Elisa Canane has some blood on the uniform. coming up at halftime. AT&T 5G in the studio with Kelsey Riggs, Rebecca Lobo, Andy Landers. A little bonus coverage of Iowa and Kentucky, that game going on as we speak. Chineke is going to take it herself.
Teresa Vitulova now in for South Florida, number 0. Another post player. This is what makes South Florida unique, as you see Bermejo drawing a charge and the South Florida bench is fired up. But this is what makes South Florida very unique, is they have a lot of depth, and that charge call is a little interesting, as you see 1 foot was in the restricted area, but I believe the official is defining Bermejo as the primary defender in that situation, so it should stay. But that's what I find so interesting about South Florida, Jen, is they are technically in the American, right? They're not in one of the Power 6 conferences, but they have the size of a Power 6 team. You look at their post players, all of them 6'2", 6'3", 6'1", they have great size and they have a lot of depth. So there are very few teams outside of the ACC, SEC, Pac-12, etc., that can defend Cunane and throw all these bodies at her defensively like South Florida's doing. And then Vitulova says, hey, I can score too. Knocks down a mid-range.
So Vitulova evens things up. Boy, what a team effort it has been for South Florida so far, as they've got number 1 on the ropes in the Mercado region.
Vitulova pushed Cunane so far away from the basket on that possession. Cunane wants to catch the ball on the on the block. She pushed her all the way up to that 2nd hash mark. That is not an ideal spot for a post player to catch the ball.
5 on the shot clock. The NC State defense has been really good at getting it low, but you talked about sometimes the ball just bounces your way. It does so again for Pinzan.
Jen, has the circus arrived here in San Antonio? That shot was incredible.
Cunane misses on this end. South Florida looking to extend their lead. Pinzan. Jada Boyd, a settling rebound, perhaps, for the Wolfpack.
Dakia Brown-Turner has been NC State's most consistent offensive weapon so far. I'd love to see her get the ball on this play, some sort of ball screen action. Let her attack the basket.
Reina Perez has been so good all season, taking care of the ball, finding her teammates, getting it where they want it. She's going to take this one herself and drain it.
Reina Perez, my goodness. That shot was incredible. That shot was from the Alamo, Jen. I know we're in the Mercado region, but that shot was from the Alamo.
Well,
good grief.
If you watch the ACC championship game, you know if you leave Reina Perez, she can hurt you. Yes, she likes to set up her teammates, but she had the game-winning shot in that game against Louisville for the Wolfpack.
Jen, here's the thing. No one left her on that play. There was a hand right in her face.
And USF continues to hit on the offensive end. Bermejo puts the Bulls back in the lead.
South Florida is playing with extreme confidence. They're bringing the energy. Everything is clicking on all cylinders. What a first half by the Bulls.
Elisa Cunane can hit the 3, doesn't here, and the 8th seed is going to have the lead over number 1 NC State as we head to the half. 5 ties, 13 lead changes, and the USF Bulls trying to get to their first ever Sweet 16. Kelsey Riggs, what a game we have so far in San Antonio.
Jen, we are loving it. Welcome in the studio, presented by AT&T 5G. NC State down 1 to South Florida at the break, alongside Rebecca Lobo, Coach Andy Landers. I'm Kelsey Riggs. We're going to talk about this game in just a little while because there's a lot to get to, but right now we've got to get you out to a 5-4 matchup happening on ESPNU. Eric Freed and Tamika Catchings on the call. We welcome you back into the studio. That game is on ESPNU in case you want to continue watching. But we've got to talk about NC State and South Florida because right now one of the #1 seeds, Rebecca, NC State trailing by 1. What they've done versus what South Florida has done to score the points has been very different.
Yeah, and South Florida's really played to their identity in this game. On the offensive end of the floor, their players run off multiple screens. They set the tone and the pace, and what they want to get is three-point looks, and they've done that very successfully. At one point in the game, they were shooting for 50%, 5 for 10. They end up 6 for 14 in the quarter. This is South Florida basketball. They run you off screens. They get the perimeter shots that they want. NC State, of course, likes to go inside when they can. South Florida's done a really nice job on Elisa Kunane. They have 3 post players in foul trouble as a result. But Jakia Brown-Turner has been able to take it off the bounce. She's gotten inside. She's gotten fouled. She's gotten to the free throw line. So it's going to be important, I think, in the second half for NC State to find a way to pick up that pace and not spend so much time defending all of those screens.
I think you're exactly right. And to your point about South Florida, they want to get the threes. They got the threes early. I think when they had 15 points on the board, 12 of those points came from threes. North Carolina State went out, tried to take the threes away, and that allowed them to get some easies closer to the rim.
NC State got off to a slow start yesterday, trailing by 1 right now to South Florida at the half. You're watching AT&T 5G in the studio.
In the Studio is presented by AT&T 5G.
Right now, South Florida, they've got a 1-point lead over NC State at the break. You've been watching In the Studio, presented by AT&T 5G.
In the Studio is presented by AT&T 5G.
Welcome back to the NCAA Women's Championship presented by Capital One. We've already seen a couple of upsets in this Mercado region, Belmont being one of them. The winner of that game, Belmont, Indiana, will take on the winner of this one. Do we have another upset in the making? Jen Hildreth, former Clemson Tiger Kelly Graham. Like, Kelly, USF looking like they want to get to their first ever Sweet 16. They're really pushing the Wolfpack.
Well, I think there are 2 keys to an upset for most teams. You have to rebound the ball, you've got to be physical with some of the bigger post players, and you have to make threes. And that is what South Florida has done to a T in this first half. They've knocked down 6 threes. 3 different Bulls have made a triple, and a lot of these are contested. It's not like they're getting wide open threes. I think NC State has guarded the 3 decently well, but South Florida just doesn't care. They are knocking down triples from all over the place. Hit 5 in the first quarter, pounded the ball inside a little more in the second quarter, got out in transition. But it's going to be interesting to see, Jen, if they can keep up this hot shooting from beyond the arc in the second half.
Yeah, and if you're NC State, can you win this game with another half from Elisa Kunane like the first one where she only had 3 points and was just 1 of 7 from the floor?
The answer is no, Jen. I think Kunane has to play better in the second half if NC State wants to escape and make it to their 3rd straight Sweet 16. And if you're USF, you keep doing what you're doing. They're going to keep being physical with her. Can Kunane get better position inside? Can she get positioned lower in the paint to create better shots for herself? And can she grab some offensive rebounds and get going that way? But Kunane is definitely the key for NC State in this second half.
Bulls probably felt like they did not want to head to the locker room, had a lot of momentum, and NC State without one of their leaders, first team All-ACC selection, Kayla Jones, not available to play in this game. Crutchfield open through the back door.
That's exactly how you want to start the second half, with a set play that works to perfection. It's a very good start for NC State. And you mentioned Kayla Jones. Kayla Jones is a leader and a senior and does so many things for this team. She also has a certain level of toughness and poise, and I think NC State really missed that in the first half.
2 offensive rebounds in that possession for the Bulls, and it pays off.
South Florida continues to rebound the ball incredibly well. They're right there with NC State in the rebounding margin. They just look tough, Jen. They're not going to be pushed around in the paint.
Lisa Canane trying to fight for position. And remember, there is some foul trouble to be aware of for USF. Shea Leverett just picked up foul number 3.
Speaking of not being pushed around in the paint, Elisa Canane said, all right, my first half, it wasn't great. But you know what? Basketball is a 40-minute game. It's a tale of two halves. And Canane looking tougher, looking more emotional in this third quarter. And that was a strong finish inside.
Canane, the first ever AP All-American in program history. She did that last season. She was named a second-team All-American again this season. She was the tournament MVP of the ACC tournament, averaged 23 points per game in Greensboro as the Wolfpack won their second straight ACC tournament title. And it seems, Kelly, like a very composed NC State team here in their first couple possessions.
Yes, this looks like a team that is mature, that has a lot of senior leadership. I'm sure Wes Moore had some words at halftime, but they have come out with a very good response.
Monunga fouled there by Jada Boyd.
Let's take a look at this, Jen. Jada Boyd said, can I have this dance? All right, she takes Monunga for a spin here in the paint. Just the change of direction inside. That is impressive from Jada Boyd.
Monunga on the line, around and in. That's her first point of the game. She averages 10 per game on the season, is the leading rebounder, not only for USF, but in the American Athletic Conference. 13.1 boards a game. She averaged over 16 rebounds per game in the American tournament. So certainly big-time player when it comes to helping on the glass, especially. But in the first round game, Kelly, it was really the third quarter. It started in the second half of the second quarter for NC State, where they began to pull away from North Carolina A&T. But in the third quarter, they outscored the Aggies 20-7. They shot 80% from the floor, and they put that game away. South Florida trying to avoid that fate in the second round.
Jada Boyd
is
such a good rebounder. And yes, we definitely need to keep an eye on these fouls for the post players inside for South Florida. Monunga with 3, Leverett with 3, and Jordal with 3. Jada Boyd just came flying out of nowhere for this rebound. Look at this. She started at the top of the key, has her eyes completely on the ball, finds it in the air, and then draws the foul. She is only a sophomore, people.
Such an unselfish player. You mentioned it earlier, Kelly, that Wes Moore has said all season long he really has 6 starters. He considers her another starter. She's the ACC Coast 6th Player of the Year for the work she did coming off the bench, averaging double figures and scoring off the bench, and getting the start today with Jones out. Taneke. And a foul against NC State as both teams were going for the rebound. Jakia Brown-Turner picking up her first. Inbounds to Monunga. Had a good look.
Coach Fernandez a little frustrated on the sideline there. You run a great blob, a great baseline out of bounds play. You get an excellent look and you just miss the layup. And then JBT, Jakia Brown-Turner on the other end with the 3. That is a 5-point swing because of a missed layup, and it looks like Coach Fernandez wants a timeout.
NC State was down 1 at the half, but they have scored on every offensive possession in this quarter so far. Jakia Brown-Turner, ice cold.
Presented by Capital One, is brought to you by Duracell Optimum.
The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship Sweet 16 begins Saturday on CBS and TBS, or you can stream games on the March Madness live app from anywhere. For more information on game times and networks, go to ncaa.com. USF trying to get to the Sweet 16 for the first time in program history. NC State trying to get back a popular Final Four pick. A lot of people were filling out their brackets, but the Wolfpack have been pushed so far. They've started this third quarter well, though, at 12-4 NC State run.
NC State has responded like a veteran team should. They realized that first half, South Florida played great ball, hit 6 threes, had excellent energy. But NC State has regrouped, and they have come out and grabbed control of this game in the third quarter. And we've mentioned the Bulls are a very streaky team. I would not count out South Florida really at any point in this game because of how they shoot the three.
Tough shot there taken by Chineke. About 11 points to lead the Bulls in the first half. Crutchfield. A snazzy bounce pass into Canane, and I mean, it looks like NC State came out and just said, we need to go to work. Let's take care of some business and maybe get some of these players in foul trouble, because that's 4 now on Leverett.
And the fouls were building. They were definitely building in the first half, and you look at the third quarter difference. South Florida has gone cold. This is a streaky team. They have struggled to shoot the ball here in this third quarter. The bench would have gone a little crazy there if Reina Perez could have knocked down that three for the Pack.
She had a big one in the first half. A rainbow three that got the Wolfpack fired up. Monunga working the glass on both ends of the floor for the Bulls. Sydney Harvey, just the second made field goal of the third quarter. USF needed it.
One of the best times to shoot a three off of an offensive rebound. Great ball movement by the Bulls after they grabbed that O board, and Harvey knocks it down.
So much contact in the paint. I'm curious to see if USF can continue to be physical with Elisa Canane. Bothered her in the first half. She only had 3 points in the first 20 minutes. And can they do it without fouling?
They're going to stay physical. That's part of their MO. That's part of their plan. But they have to be careful. And they have to start being smart and picking their moments, because this foul trouble is really starting to rack up.
This one will be a turnover against NC State as Jakia Brown-Turner, offensive foul.
They called her, yeah, for the push-off. They called her for the push-off with the left hand, the left arm.
That's the second personal against Brown-Turner. Chineke got a lane.
Chineke is so tough to guard. They bring her off these stagger screens, and just when you feel like you've done your job, you've closed out and prevented her from taking the three, she is quick enough to put the ball on the deck and get right to the basket.
No points in over 2 minutes now for NC State. Canane dishes it before all of the defense can get to her. Maybe a little too much mustard on that pass.
And see, that's where I think you've got to blow the whistle. Look, you can be physical in the lane, and physicality is part of basketball, but that double team came on Cunane, and the player, I believe it was Monunga, she didn't stop. She just kept going, and she basically ran into Cunane on that previous play when she was coming over to double. You can double all you want, but you have to stop and stop your progress. So I thought they missed a foul earlier and then called one here.
That is the fourth on Monunga. So now the 2 starting post players for the Bulls, Betty Monunga and Shea Leverett, both with 4 fouls.
Jen, you only get 5. This is not the NBA. You get 5 fouls.
I
hope that South Florida is aware of that, because they're using up all their fouls.
Well, we saw Beatrice Jordow, who's on the floor now, come in, play some important minutes in the first half when those 2 starters were in foul trouble, although she has 3 fouls also. And give some credit to Elisa Canane, too, because she has remained composed. She wants her team to remain in the dance. What's coming up tonight in the NCAA Women's Championship second round? We'll show you. 7 o'clock, Oregon State, South Carolina, then Virginia Tech, Baylor. That's over on ESPN 2. At 9, Syracuse, UConn on ESPN. The Paige Becker Show continues, perhaps. and Oklahoma State Stanford on ESPN2. Those are some fantastic matchups coming up later on tonight. What will Paige Bueckers do for an encore? 24 points in her NCAA tournament debut, the most, I should say, ever by a UConn player in their NCAA debut.
I'm looking forward to so many of these games tonight, Jen. I've just kind of been locked into my TV as Kai Crutchfield hits another three. But that UConn-Syracuse game is very interesting to me. You have the youth of UConn with Bueckers, and she has been incredible. But this Syracuse team is very talented, they're deep, and they have a ton of experience. So I think that game could be quite interesting later on this evening.
NC State on the break. Boyd, an easy two. Kayla Jones. You can feel the emotion. Speaking of Kayla Jones, Jen, you can feel the emotion shifting in this game. The South Florida bench was electric in the first half, had so much energy, and it feels like that energy has just been sucked out of the building, and NC State has taken all of it. In the first half, we often saw those go down when it was a run like this by NC State. Not this time. It's a 7-0 Wolfpack run. It's their largest lead of the game. Make it 10-0 after that triple from Perez.
Perez is always looking to pass. She is a pass-first point guard. That time, Kanane was not open. They left Perez open, and Perez said, hey, I can knock down a three just like she did in the ACC championship game and hit that big game winner in Greensboro. Take another look. She's looking for Kanane. You can see her looking at her. She wants to give it to her. But Pinzon is too far off Perez, and Perez says, all right, if you're going to sag off of me, I am going to make you pay.
You mentioned it, Kelly, that we've seen that before from Reina Perez. Now, she only averages 9 points per game, but in the waning seconds of the ACC championship game against Louisville, nobody steps up to guard her. 2.1 on the clock. She knocks it down. NC State defends their ACC tournament title.
Just a massive shot from Perez, and it was with Kanane as well, where they were sagging off of Perez to guard Kanane because Kanane just commands that much attention. And Perez is a very capable scorer. Averaged 19 points per game at Cal State Fullerton before she transferred to NC State. So she can score the ball, and she's taken more of a distributing role on this team, which has been exactly what they need. But do not sag off of Perez, because she's going to knock it down.
That was a 2 last time, by the way, not a 3 for Perez. I gave her 1 extra point. So a 9-0 run by NC State. Collision, foul. Manunga out there with 4 fouls for USF. And is she in some trouble here? So that's her 5th personal foul, but we're getting word that there is also a technical foul at play. Jose Fernandez picking up the tee over on the sideline. I mean, Manunga, your leading rebounder, one of your starters who averages double digits, fouls out with 3 minutes left in the third quarter.
Fernandez obviously frustrated with some of the foul calls, but this is how South Florida plays. They're a very physical team, and I don't think that the officials have blown the whistle too much. I think this is just how South Florida rolls. They're going to be physical. They're going to force you to blow the whistle and force you to make some calls, and the refs have done that here in this third quarter.
So the technical fouls being shot first here, the free throws, I should say, by Jada Boyd. And Elisa Kanane, there was a smile on her face. You got to see, she often has a smile, as our friend Debbie Antonelli has nicknamed her Big Smile for a reason. It was like she saw Manunga foul out and she said to herself, if I could just hang in there, eventually they're going to run out of fouls.
What's crazy, though, is Manunga fouls out. You still have Leverett, you still have Jordao, you still have Vitralova. South Florida's going to keep throwing post players at her, but they do have quite a few at this point that are in substantial foul trouble.
Leverett also has 4. Jordao has 3. NC State with those free throws extending their largest lead of the game now to 14. Crutchfield trying to post up inside. Everybody on the floor. Jump ball. No, a foul is called. If that's Leverett, I think I saw a 2-1. She's done. No, it is Sutphin, so it's going to stay with USF. I thought for a moment they raised up Leverett's number, but it was Ellie Sutphin who picked up the foul for NC State.
Look at that run for NC State in the third quarter, 24-9. Going into the half, trailing, and NC State has come out in this third quarter and has set the tone. This is what they did against North Carolina A&T, Jen. They also had a massive third quarter in that game.
NC State wound up winning that game 79-58 to dispose of the Aggies. And just 3 made field goals in this quarter for South Florida, who the Bulls, it looked like everything was bouncing their way and bouncing into the basket in that first half. It's not been that way in the third quarter. Kanane composed, but around and out, and then Chineke hangs on. Chineke all the way herself. Big rebound by Leverett. She'll put it back up and is fouled. Lisa Kanane there defensively for NC State, and Brown Turner also stepping over. That foul will go against Brown Turner. That's her third.
Every player on each of these teams, Jen, is going to need not one, maybe multiple ice baths after this game. It has been so physical in the paint.
Rather awkward looking free throw from Leverett, who only shoots 42% from the line on the season. NIT quarterfinals coming your way Thursday. NC State's men taking on Colorado State at 7 Eastern on ESPN. Visit NCAA.com, the home for all 90 NCAA championships. Lane violation, so that one wasn't going to count even if it had had a chance of going in. Brown Turner. Sutphin back on the floor, getting some minutes for the Wolfpack. Player who scored her first field goal of the calendar year in the first half. Her last bucket had come back in December for Ellie Sutphin off the bench, and a turnover there by Brown Turner.
Coach Moore a little frustrated because that was a great pass by Elisa Kanane. The double came. It's a great pass cross court to JBT, and Brown Turner moved her feet a little too quickly as she was trying to attack the basket.
Bulls to the basket, and they get it! Maria Alvarez, the spark off the bench, gives the Bulls a much-needed lift.
Look at her weaving through the trees inside. Alvarez only 5'7". She got low. She weaved through Kanane and Sutphin and found a way to finish.
First points for the Bulls in over 4 minutes. She can't complete the three-point play. And with now under a minute to play in our third quarter, the lead a dozen for the top-seeded Wolfpack.
Just heard Westmore say, get out of there, open up the lane for Crutchfield.
Or let Elisa Kanane try her hand at the three. She actually does shoot a very good percentage there, 44% in limited opportunity. She's made 11 of 25 coming into this game from three.
You feel like, Jen, if South Florida can get a bucket here, they can grab a little momentum back heading into the fourth quarter.
A three obviously would make it a single-digit lead for NC State, and South Florida shot the three very well in the first half. They were 6 of 14, 43% from downtown. Second half, just 1 of 6. They're looking for it here from Alvarez. No. Out of bounds, it'll be NC State ball.
I love being able to hear Westmore. Jakia, go get it and push. We know exactly what NC State's going to do because this gym is so quiet, Jen.
Well, he's still urging his team on, but it has been all NC State in the third quarter. The Wolfpack trying to move on to the Sweet 16. Let's take a look at today's Capital One rewarding performance. It is not just one Wolfpack player, Kelly Graham, like it's the whole team and what they just did in that third quarter.
The strength is in the pack, or something like that. I believe that is somewhat of the saying when we're talking about packs and everything like that. And NC State was excellent in the third quarter. It's all about NC State's balance. We know that. They went inside early in the third, they got going, and then they were able to knock down some threes. There's something about the third quarter with this NC State Wolfpack team. Had a great third quarter against North Carolina A&T, and of course today against South Florida. And I don't know what Coach Moore says at halftime. I don't know what happens, but they seem to flip a switch heading into the third quarter so far in this NCAA tournament.
Yeah, the Wolfpack, Wes Moore saying after their first round game, maybe there was a little bit of rust. There was a couple of weeks that they had to wait after winning that ACC tournament championship before playing again. That's just how they drew it up, right, in this one? So maybe another slow start, or you give a lot of credit to what both North Carolina A&T did in the first round and how USF started this game.
And I'm really glad that we did the Capital One rewarding performance to the whole team, because even though Kanane, look, she is an All-American and she's exceptional, NC State is truly a strength in numbers kind of team. They have so much balance and they share the ball really well. Anybody can beat you on a given night. And Jada Boyd, this has been an excellent showing for her as she's playing in place of their senior Kayla Jones, who's dealing with a left knee injury. And Boyd now has a double-double, 15 and 10, headed to the free throw line. There are not many teams, Jen, that can bring a player like Jada Boyd off of their bench. That is such a luxury for NC State. Now she's starting, of course, in place for Kayla Jones, but she has been tremendous today.
And should NC State advance to the Sweet 16, that will certainly be a question. The status of Kayla Jones, who you mentioned that is a different player who can step up for this NC State team. That's kind of been the story all season long. Jada Boyd getting the start today, doing Jada Boyd things. Whether she starts or comes off the bench, she's been tremendous. And it was Kayla Jones who had the big shot in NC State's win at #1 South Carolina in the regular season. Remember, this is an NC State team that took down 2 AP #1 ranked teams on the road this season.
Truly an incredible feat, and they beat Louisville again in the ACC championship game. There are not many teams in the country. I'll say this, I think NC State has the 2 best wins of any team in the country. You can make an argument for Stanford's overall body of work, perhaps South Carolina's, but look, NC State beat South Carolina. Their wins speak for themselves.
Not many have done what NC State did, taken down 2 AP #1 teams. These are the others who have done it since 2000, so 2 decades. It's a pretty small club, but look where they finished their season. Champions, champions, runner-up in the NCAA championship. So NC State trying to continue that trend.
All of those teams at least made the Final Four and the championship game, as you mentioned, Jen. And that's what I've said about NC State. There's no doubt that they have risen up to the top of women's basketball. Jada Boyd just continuing to go to work. But there's no doubt that they are a very well-respected program at this point. But I think to really arrive and to really cement themselves at the top, they have to make a Final Four. That's how we judge programs in college basketball, for better or worse. And NC State is trying to reach their first Final Four since 1998.
Yeah, it's been a while. 26th NCAA appearance for the Wolfpack, and that lone Final Four back in the 90s. Now Sydney Harvey at the line was fouled by Kai Crutchfield. That was Crutchfield's third, and it will be 3 free throws for Harvey, who's a 74% free throw shooter on the season.
I know the Bulls have some foul trouble. I know the Bulls have some foul trouble, Jen. Sorry about that. But they can shoot the 3, so they're never really out of it. 12 points. I know that we said math would not be a part of the broadcast, but that's 4 threes. They can get back in it because of how they can shoot it. So NC State still has to be very efficient on the offensive end.
Perez into the lane. 3 defenders around her. One of them commits the foul. As Perez, a transfer from Cal State Fullerton, just unafraid. Saw enough of that lane open up that she decided she was going in. And it goes against Alvarez.
Perez does such a great job of knowing when to attack and knowing when to distribute. She just has a great feel for that. That's not really something you can teach. A lot of that is innate. When I need to go to the basket, when does my team need me to knock down a 3 or at least take a 3? And when does my team need me to look for my teammates? And specifically, which teammates should I be trying to get going in the game? She just has a great feel for how to play the point guard position.
I give her so much credit, too, because she was a scoring point guard at Cal State Fullerton. She was the Big West Player of the Year last season, averaged nearly 20 points per game, and that's cut more than in half. She averages only 9 this season for NC State, but has been so good at distributing the ball.
I think what it comes down to with Perez is she just can tell what her team needs. And obviously at Cal State Fullerton, they needed her to score the ball. And she can score. She's had games this year where she's put up a lot of points. But at NC State, she is a true PG that is looking to distribute, but is also a scoring threat. And that kind of player is incredibly valuable.
Meanwhile, Lisa Canane had the positioning, probably took a little more contact and couldn't finish it off. Drive to the basket by Pinzon is good.
South Florida's hanging around, but NC State's done a good job of running South Florida off the 3-point line in this second half. The Bulls with only 2 3-point attempts here in the fourth quarter.
Kia Brown-Turner almost looked like she wasn't sure what to do. She was so open. She's been good in this game once again. 16 points for the Wolfpack. Foul on Perez, her first. Well, she had the lean, didn't get the roll. And let's look ahead at the NCAA Women's Championship dates, Saturday and Sunday, the Sweet 16. One of these teams will be the first to get there, perhaps. The Elite 8 coming up after that. Final Four, Friday, April 2nd on ESPN, and then the championship Sunday, 6 Eastern on ESPN, with coverage beginning at 5.
Is there a more efficient player in the entire country than Kai Crutchfield?
Say her name.
She's taken 5 shots. Kai Crutchfield, excuse me, Jim.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you for correcting me, partner. She's taken 5 shots, has 11 points. She doesn't need that many attempts to make an impact on a game. And her 3-point shooting percentage, she was at 43% heading into the game. She's 3 for 3 today. She just can't miss. And she is also like Perez. She knows when her team needs her. She's not going to force shots. She's not going to go out there and force it. But to have her as an incredible defender and then just have her on the perimeter when Canane and Boyd and all these players are drawing all that attention inside, and then you have a 45% 3-point shooter just sitting out there on the wing, that's incredibly valuable for NC State.
Has to get the jersey cleaned up a bit before she can come back. Brown-Turner, her 4th personal foul is what put Harvey on the line. Kai Crutchfield now has 4 straight NCAA tournament games, 2 this year included in that run, where she has made at least 3 3-pointers, which is why we're just officially changing her name to Kai Clutchfield.
If I was as clutch as Kai, and I've got to salute her because I'd be out there taking 10 threes a game, just being honest. If I was shooting at that percentage, come on now.
Kelly, you took 10 threes anyway.
Right. Jen, to be fair, I'm going to do that regardless.
Couple of sloppy moments that have Wes Moore shaking his head over there on the sideline. 12-point advantage for the top-seeded Wolfpack, who trailed South Florida at the half, but really took over in the third quarter, outscoring the Bulls 24-11 after halftime. Based on those first 10 minutes. And USF trying to get to the rim and perhaps expecting contact that wasn't there, so they lose the ball, and NC State still with a 12-point advantage.
The NCAA Women's Championship is presented by Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Coming up next, you get a chance to see the Big Ten Player of the Year, Naz Hillman, as Michigan takes on Tennessee. That's part of the Riverwalk region, the star-studded Riverwalk region, if you will, Kelly Gramlich.
The star power is ridiculous in this region. You got Paige Beckers, Tiana Monacahia, Ryan Howard, Caitlin Clark, Renaya Davis, Naz Hillman. You've got Smith at Baylor. You've got Asia Shepard, Liz Kitley at Virginia Tech. Good grief, Jen. Stars everywhere in the Riverwalk.
Caitlin Clark leading Iowa right now, by the way, over Kentucky, having another fantastic game. The freshman with 28 points as Iowa up 21 on the Wildcats. South Florida trying to stay in it here and move on to their first ever Sweet 16. Pinzan coming in for the layup.
We talked about Caitlin Clark. She has 28 points today versus Kentucky. That game is still ongoing. She had 24 at the half.
Three won't go. No rebound for the Wolfpack. So an opportunity here, Kelly. Still plenty of time. And we saw how South Florida has the ability to shoot the three. They've gone a little bit colder in that regard, but they have it.
They're never out of it. If you can shoot the three like they can, you're never out of it. They were really hot in the first quarter, a lot colder in the second and third, and NC State has done a great job of not letting them take threes. They're forcing them to take tough twos, and give Chineke a lot of credit there. She got in the lane and got a one-dribble pull-up. But NC State has to be careful. Only an 8-point game. The way South Florida can get hot, you have to make good decisions and try to score on your possessions on the offensive end. A turnover like that is not what you want.
Help defense coming over, taking some chances and getting the offensive foul called on Elisa Kanane. That's her second personal. What a job by the defense. Will it turn into points? Pinzan tiptoeing the baseline, picked up her dribble, needs some help. And Jose Fernandez knew it. Timeout, USF.
That's a good timeout call by Jose Fernandez because he knows how important each of these possessions are. With 3 minutes and 14 seconds left, you would assume when NC State gets the ball back, they are going to try to milk that clock, use 25 or 30 seconds on the shot clock. So you can't just give up a possession to a turnover, which is probably what would have happened if Fernandez did not call that timeout.
NC State has opened up a lead by as many as 14 points in this quarter, but South Florida bringing it back to within 8. Couple players in foul trouble for USF. Betty Manunga has already fouled out. Shea Leverett has 4. And Jakia Brown-Turner has 4 fouls for NC State. Bulls from under the basket. Pinzan, contested 3. Kanane, a big rebound.
That was excellent defense by Jada Boyd, hedging off of her defender just long enough so that Brown-Turner, I believe it was, could get back in front of Chineke. Otherwise, that could have been a made three. So that was really well done by Jada Boyd, helping out her guard.
And a beautiful look and finish by Kanane, who now has a double-double. 12 points, 10 rebounds for the All-American. Pins on. 8 on the shot clock for Chineke. She'll pull up. Glances off the rim, out of bounds.
Excellent defense there by Perez and Crutchfield, not allowing a three. Anything but a three right now is what NC State should be thinking defensively. If your player goes by you, if they hit a tough two over help defense, that's fine. But you can't give up threes and can't give them good looks. And I thought Perez and Crutchfield really locked down defensively on that last possession.
Boyd to the basket, too strong. Can USF afford another empty possession? That's exactly what happens. One shot, rebound to Kanane again, who seems to have had the ball in her hands a lot these last few minutes for NC State.
Now she has you mentioned she had a double-double, Jen, but she didn't have that many rebounds or just really wasn't very productive in the first half. The second half, she has shown up.
Had to really deal with a lot of physicality from this USF team. Adjusted, and a triple for Jakia Brown-Turner. Makes the NC State bench a little more comfortable.
JBT for three. That shot, if Reina Perez's shot was from the Alamo, so was that one, Jen.
Chineke with the answer, close to the line, but three-pointer the call. USF not going anywhere yet. But now, time running out. And they do commit the foul. Chineke had her hands on Reina Perez.
Look how far out Jakia Brown-Turner is. She thinks about it, jabs a couple times, lets it fly. Cash. Kayla Jones is loving it. Kayla Jones, rest that knee. Rest that knee. She's dancing on the bench because she's so excited.
Now USF still had a couple of fouls to give, just 3 so far, so they're not putting NC State on the line yet. They nearly had the steal on that possession. Now they're 1 foul away from putting NC State on the line. And USF, Kelly, we talked about how Jose Fernandez has been battling the flu, but he is not the only one on the sideline who's had to go through some drama here this NCAA tournament. Assistant head coach Danny Hughes, look at what happened to him on Saturday. He wound up going to the hospital and having emergency gallbladder surgery. And then, less than 24 hours later, he's on his way the next day to be on the sidelines for the first round game for the Bulls against Washington State.
That is absolute dedication from Danny Hughes, committed to his program, committed to his team. As long as the doctor cleared him, he said, look, I'm not missing the NCAA tournament. This is the NCAA tournament, Jen. I don't care if I have to get my gallbladder removed and then get right to the gym. That's what you do in March. Shout out to Danny Hughes. We respect him. And we hope he is feeling better.
We absolutely do. Jose Fernandez emotional after the game, after the win. Now hoping his team can get some points late. That one just a 2 from Chineke. Now Perez is fouled, and that will do it for Shea Leverett as she fouls out with her 5th personal. So it's a tough task here. A 10-point advantage for NC State, a team that is a 75% free throw shooting team on the season. And Reina Perez, who's headed to the line, is an 83% free throw shooter. Perez in her first season with NC State, looking to try to seal the deal and get the Wolfpack back in the Sweet 16 for the 3rd consecutive NCAA tournament.
Look at those free throw numbers for NC State. 21 of 27. Part of what makes NC State so good is not only do they get to the line, but they shoot the ball from the free throw line really well as a team. 75% on the year.
Pinzon, a quick bucket, quick points. Timeout on the floor, NC State. So the Wolfpack will have a chance to advance it if they so choose. Well, we told you about Naz Hillman. How about Rennia Davis? She's been playing big for Tennessee, and she'll take on Naz Hillman and the Michigan Wolverines coming up next on ESPN2. Davis leading the way.
Jen, this is going to be a heck of a game between Tennessee and Michigan. So don't go anywhere. Stay locked in right here on ESPN2. Look at Davis and Burrell in Tennessee's first game against Middle Tennessee. They were excellent. And both Tennessee and Michigan, I know it's a 6 versus a 3 in terms of seeding, but both those teams ranked in the AP poll. It's actually a top 16 matchup. And both teams here ranked in the AP poll. South Florida ranked 19th heading into the tournament. And we know NC State, of course, has been in the top 5 pretty much all year at number 3.
Perez back on the free throw line. Yeah, you don't want to forget that all of these teams had to wait a little longer to get here to the NCAA tournament. Lisa Kinane has talked about how hungry this team was last year. They had won the ACC tournament last year for the first time since 1991. They were ready to take that into the NCAA tournament and see where they could go. They did not get that chance. They came back this year. They win it again in the ACC, and now they are looking at their 3rd straight Sweet 16. Hobby,
and I feel like some of that was said at halftime, right? Let's remember how lucky we are to be here, just that we're having a tournament, but let's also remember how discouraging it was to not have one last year, and all of our goals are still in front of us. We just have to play much better in the second half, and NC State, to their credit, did just that.
1-point lead at halftime for the 8th seeded USF Bulls. And in the 3rd quarter, NC State, I would say they put it away because they outscored USF 24-11, but truthfully they didn't. The Bulls got it back within 8 in this 4th quarter, but NC State always had an answer. Tremendous season for USF. Getting back to the NCAA tournament, their 7th NCAA appearance. They've been to 6 of the last 8, but this one is going to end in the 2nd round as the NC State Wolfpack, it is sweet once again. They are moving on to the Sweet 16.
Third straight Sweet 16 for the NC State women's basketball program. You can tell players are excited. Sweet 16 is an accomplishment. Never, ever take the Sweet 16 for granted. And that's what NC State is doing right now. And with NC State, as it is almost every game, it's about their balance. 5 players in double figures. Jakia Brown-Turner was excellent today. And the Wolfpack advanced to face the winner of Indiana Belmont here in the Mercado region.
We warned you about upsets happening in this Mercado region. We've seen a couple of them already, Belmont being one of those, but NC State avoiding it here today. Despite trailing by 1 at the half, they get the win 79-67 to move on to the Sweet 16. Coming up after the break, we'll take you to Tennessee and Michigan.
Points. That's the best scoring output we've seen so far in the tournament. But we had a very close one between NC State and South Florida. In fact, the Wolfpack, the 1 seed, was down by 1 at halftime in this one.
Yeah, I thought South Florida did a terrific job in the first half, getting the tempo where they wanted it. They were able to hit from 3.
but there's just too many weapons for NC State. Elisa Cunane, quiet in the first half, came alive in the second, but 5 players for NC State finished this game in double-figure scoring. They have tremendous balance.
Yeah, they came back in the third quarter, outscored the Bulls 24-11, got into that lead, and like you said, Cunane came alive, and they were able to get the victory 79-67. And listen, the Wolfpack, they played from behind before. It was the 5th time NC State trailed at half. Good thing for the Wolfpack is they're now 4-1 in those games, and they're dancing along into the Sweet 16. So let's walk through what changed for this Wolfpack squad at halftime.
Well, you know, I don't know that a lot changed. I think they just kind of settled in offensively. This is a team, Rebecca mentioned it, they're very balanced. They can hurt you from three-point range. They're geared to go inside. That's the way they're built. But what impressed me today about them, when Cunane wasn't scoring, everyone else was. That's dangerous if you're playing North Carolina State.
Jakia Brown-Turner was the player in the first half who picked it up on the offensive end, but second game in a row where it's a different player. It was Boyd in the first round that just finds a way to pick it up. They had 24 points in the third quarter. It seems like that's been their quarter so far in the tournament.
Jakia Brown-Turner finishes with 19 points, and obviously the Wolfpack gets to move on. And here you go, taking a look to see who they might get to face. Will it be Belmont, the Bruins? We watched Destiny Wells and what she was able to do as a true freshman are waiting and sitting pretty in the Sweet 16.